The world is experiencing multiple transitions. The old world order is vanishing, but the contours of a new world order are uncertain. A very good afternoon to everyone, and thank you for joining us for the Day 2 International Interdisciplinary Webinar, organized by Departments of Psychology and Department of Business Administration on Psychology of Crisis and Resilience to Change. To our eminent speakers and delegates who have come from all over the world, we bid you a very warm welcome. We are indeed honored to have you here with us. We have about 3,000 participants from 22 countries gathered here today, making our webinar a truly international one. This webinar is organized to bring together academicians, researchers, business entrepreneurs, practitioners, and policymakers who are responsible for delivering sustainable and eco-friendly solutions through leveraging advanced information on psychology of crisis and resilience to change. This webinar provides a great opportunity for prospective participants to share their recent theoretical knowledge, research findings, and experiences. As such, the Day 1 session was featured presentations by international speakers and national speakers, which are cutting-edge session topics such as crisis and resilience, a holistic approach, the power of change, resilience, and coping strategies to uncertainties. Excellencies, participants, and faculty members, we are now going to listen to the session delivered by Mr. Vijay Arisetty, co-founder, CEO of MyGate Communications Private Limited, Bangalore, on challenging scenario of entrepreneurship due to COVID-19. We welcome you, sir. Alumni of National Defence Academy, NDA, and Indian School of Business, ISB, with 15 years of experience. Served as a VP at Goldman Sachs for 4 years with expertise in change management, regularity reforms, and sales support function for IFCC products. Fully operational helicopter pilot with Indian Air Force for about 10 years, played pivotal in managing disaster relief operations by air, land, and sea, handling security of air bases, VVIP flying, pilot training, and military flying operations. Perfect blend of technological know-how, strategic thinking, and flawless execution. Founding partner at PinCaps 2011 and Kitchen Food 2014. A very warm welcome to you, Mr. Vijay Arisetty. MyGate is a platform that is changing the face of security management services for gated communities. Residents can use the MyGate app to communicate with neighbors, discuss matters to the community and society on internal discussion forums, manage visitors, guests, deliveries, cabs, etc. Maintain attendance record and salary payments for daily help, discover services, pay society maintenance bills, among much else. The huge market opportunity has seen many players throwing their hats into the ring. So let's begin with the background of former Indian Air Force pilot, also Shaurya Chakra awardee for evacuating victims in 2004 tsunami. Over to you, sir. Can I proceed, sir?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. So all the participants and the delegates and excellencies want to know a lot about you. But to start with, the first question goes this way. How has the transformation been from from the Air Force to the corporate world and then to an entrepreneur. So how was this transformation? A journey
Mhm.
from being into the Air Force and then into the corporate world and then to a successful entrepreneur.
Got it. So I think one of the key tenets of having such a so many transitions, right? A lot of people ask me this, and I try to reflect back in terms of what is that actually helped me to do so much of transition from the armed forces to investment banking to now technology startup, right? So I think one of the key parameters that I look back is first principle thinking, right? When you start observing things around you and you start thinking about things logically, what's happening, right? You will be able to you know you'll be able to come to the right decision, right? I think in all these places, I was supposed to take some kind of decisions, right? While I was in the Air Force, I was supposed to take decisions where, the aircraft was flying safely. When I came to investment banking, I was supposed to take decisions where, the return for the capital invested needs to be optimal. And third, in my startup, I had to take decisions which will make us successful and make our efforts fruitful, right? So all these things, if you see, right, the underlying principle is logical, right? Once you develop this habit of, questioning things logically around whatever is happening around you, I think uh, you will be able to, take the right decisions, right? So I think on the first principle basis, logical thinking helped me to, is the underlying character or characteristic that has helped me to deliver in whichever job I was, right? And you can see that in most of us, right? Most of us actually have, as a woman, you are already working at your workplace, and probably you are playing a role of a teacher or a principal or some administrator or whatever it is. But when you go home, you take up a different role of managing the home, right? And and both the places you are able to deliver this because you are able to apply your first principle thinking and take logical decisions and logical steps to move forward, right? I think that is the same thing that we need to use in life as general, right? There are certain nuances which are specific to a job. Like, say for example, flying is a specific nuance, surgeon is a specific nuance, right? A Formula One racer is a specific nuance, right? You need to get trained for that, but other than that, everything else remains the same, right? So I think as students and as all of us as professionals, I think the number one thing that we should not forget, or we should always keep amplifying on, is the power of logical thinking and first principle thinking. I think that is what has helped me to do multiple transitions, and I and wear multiple hats in my life.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your enlightened on being observant and a detailed briefing about logical thinking, which we can actually connect to our real scenario as well. Thank you, sir. Dear audience, to add with, I would also like to share that Sir is already an Shaurya Chakra awardee for evacuating victims for the tsunami which had happened in the year 2014. So it's really great, sir.
It's 2004 now,
Okay, okay,
December 2000.
okay. Can we proceed with the next question, sir?
Please go ahead, ma'am.
Okay, sir. So, all the participants here, they are very curious to know what is MyGate. What was the genesis, or was there any incidents or any personal experience which made you start this, or how did you get this idea of MyGate?
Yeah. So I think one of the key things that I had in mind when I wanted to do something on my own, right? So, coming from armed forces, especially being a pilot, things happen, very fast, right? And the life moves on very fast as a helicopter pilot. When I came into the corporate world, I realized that, you know, things were not happening the pace at which I used to generally, see in my armed forces. Right? Although the job was very enriching for me, Goldman Sachs gave me a very strong footing into the corporate world. But but I felt that I could be utilized much more than what the company is utilizing me for now, right? And that's the time I was trying to think in terms of where all should I, which all of the opportunities that will help me to, deliver at the pace at which I want to deliver. Right? Tried multiple startups, as you already know that, in 2011 I started Pink Cabs. This is something like the first time I used a smartphone in 2011, an Android smartphone, and then I realized a lot of potential in this. Basically a computer coming off your phone, right? And then I felt that we can do a lot of stuff which were otherwise not possible, right? Before companies like Uber and Ola came into the market, right? I built an app called Pink Apps, which was actually supposed to do the same thing, right? And for various reasons, the startup could not take off because that was my first startup in technology space. Finding a tech co-founder and putting the team in place was really difficult. So I had to wind that up, right? But in Mygate, what we saw is 2014-15, right? There are the world was especially in India, right? We were all accepting e-commerce, so we started seeing a phenomena called as commerce coming to our doorsteps, right? Earlier, if you see 2005, 6, all of us, the only way for us to shop is to go to the local, shopping area or go to a mall and do some shopping, right? But 2014, 15, everything was available at a click of a button, right? You can order anything and everything, and that will be delivered to you. So what we say is, we going to the commercial stores has now become the commercial stores coming to us, right? So that was one thing that was happening at a very rampant speed. Second, what we saw is in India generally, right, what you see is the public infrastructure like roads, power supply, water supply is very uncertain in most of the places, right? And since gated communities promised a 100% delivery of power, water supply, cleanliness, security, a lot of people who were able to afford wanted to stay in gated communities. So we started seeing a move of people coming from individual houses and moving into gated communities because there is a sense of security, community living, and all these basic, things that are expected in life are being taken, right? And we saw this not only in urban cities but also happening in tier two, tier three cities, right? Like, and most of the times we wanted our kids to go and enjoy in a park, play in, have a swimming pool, have a gym, and all those things, right? But individually, people cannot afford, but collectively, we are all able to afford, right? So all these parameters led to the rise in, adoption of gated communities, right? Third factor, what we had seen was every industry in India was going through some kind of technology transformation. Like if you see all the payments companies like Paytm, PhonePe, MobiKwik, Google Pay, all these, right? Your wallets became technology, like tech enabled. Then you started seeing mobility also getting tech enabled, like Ola, Uber, Rivigo. A lot of other companies have come, which are helping, transportation companies using technology. Then we started seeing food tech like Swiggy, Zomato, and all this, right? So what we started seeing is every industry in India was going through some of the other kind of technology transformation. But security industry in India, which is a $20 billion industry and employing close to 80 lakh security guards, right? India has got today 80 lakh security guards employed, which is the highest, employer in this, in the country, right? And this entire space did not have any kind of technology, and that's where we thought that all these three things were being satisfied by using Mygate. So Mygate is a technology platform that is used by security guards to enable commerce at doorsteps and also provides kind of security a residential gated community is looking for. Right. So that's the genesis of how Mygate came into play.
Thank you, sir. I think it's rightly quoted as doing common things differently is what I think MyGate is all about.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. So, can we continue with the next question, sir?
Sure. Ma'am.
Okay, okay. The next question will be, sir, each one of us are really curious to know about this. So, can you please share with us your experience and how to overcome challenging and difficult situations like the one currently facing by across the globe?
See, I think as like one of the things that I learned during my Air Force days was we call something called as airmanship, right? So you guys can Google it after this talk. What is airmanship, right? So airmanship is an ability that is each one of us have got it, right? But it is the emphasis of this particular skill set is more emphasized in the for pilots. Basically, what airmanship says is, when you're flying, right? You're flying at very high speeds, and you're flying in a you know you, basically you can only see ahead of you. You can't see below you, you can't see above you, right? And there are a lot of other aircrafts also flying in that area, right? You always need to be sure that if there is an engine failure now, what do I need to do with the aircraft? So your mind is always running. There are multiple forces that are always engaging you. So to be a successful pilot, you need to have this quality of airmanship. Basically what airmanship says is you need to be aware about the environment around you, right? It is not only be aware about the environment around you, but also you need to be aware about some emergencies that are likely to happen, right? When you're flying an aircraft, there are multiple things that can go wrong, which each one of the thing going wrong, you need to always, your mind is always like a computer, right? Running. There is an engine failure now, what I need to do? If there is an gearbox failure, what I need to do now? If there is fuel pump failure, what I need to do now? If winds are low, what I need to do now? If the weight of the aircraft is high, what I need to do now? So multiple challenges you're thinking at the same time, right? And you, like, pilots are trained to think on all these lines at any point in time, right? Similarly, if you see, for normal individual, right, when you're driving a car, right, if you see, most of the accidents that happen on the road are not due to your mistakes, but due to the mistakes done by others around you, right? So as a driver, as of a car, you need to be aware of the situation around you. And this particular ability of being aware about the situation around you and taking precautionary measures is called airmanship, right? So I think this was very deeply ingrained into me, right? Just to be aware of whatever things are going to happen. So as an entrepreneur, right, you're always working with limited bandwidth, limited resources, and limited capacity, right? So you're always aware about yourself, that you're operating under these kind of things. And you're also always paranoid about, okay, tomorrow if this doesn't happen, what is my plan of action? Day after tomorrow, if this doesn't happen, what is my plan of action? So the inherent nature of an entrepreneur is to be prepared for eventualities, right? And that's what helps you in planning better. Like, one of the key metric that we always follow in MyGate is, you always increase your expenses or your growth or your hiring in such a way that your business is giving you so much of revenue that you break even in 3 to 4 months time, right? It's not that you invest so much of money into this that you, like, you're break even in 12 months, 18 months time. We don't know what is going to happen in 12 months, 18 months time. So all your investment that goes to see something that will be visible after 12 to 18 months, you need to be very calculated about it, or not take such kind of steps, right? So in my case, we followed the approach of whatever investment we do, we need to break even in 2 to 3 months. So that helped us not to take some unnecessary buffer in the organization, which basically caught us unguarded during this COVID times, right? I think we are one of the companies in India, right? Even during COVID times, we didn't fire any of our employees, and we did not reduce salaries for anybody. And in fact, we gave them hikes, right? Because what helped us is, plan for, you see, during peacetime you can plan for a war, right? The better you plan during a peacetime, the better you're prepared during a wartime. So I think that planning during the peacetime has helped us to be resilient during this COVID times. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Sir, I hope you're comfortable with the question, sir.
Yeah, yeah, I'm comfortable with the question. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Can we proceed, sir?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So the next one would be so we want to know more about yourself and how you happen to be the founder of MyGate, like from former Indian Air Force pilot to the founder of MyGate. The journey, or how did it happen to you, sir? Like,
So I think I covered this.
Yeah, okay, sir, in that case. So this way, the next one will be, sir, the latest one, the current thing. It's credible that MyGate was on the first to work at local governments to set up a system to help them give away e-passes to
Mhm.
citizens based on approvals. How did that idea come about, sir?
See, I think this was not an our idea, right? Actually, if you see MyGate in general, it works with an approval process, right? If you go to any gated community, you wanted to visit any person staying inside the community, you need to take an approval using MyGate, right? That was the basic, the product offering is such, right? And, some of the local administration, like when they were planning for the implementation of the lockdown, right? And some of the industry leaders suggested the local police, that Karnataka police, that you need to approach this company MyGate, who has already got a system like this, and they should be able to do it for entire Karnataka, right? And then I got a call from the DGP's office that we would like to talk to you so that you can build a pass for us, right? And then we jumped on it because this is a once in a lifetime opportunity to do something for the government. And COVID and the lockdown, all these things were really uncertain times and unprecedented times. And we felt that this is the way we can give something back to the community. So all our developers and engineers felt that we should do something during this time. And I met the DGP and he gave the requirement, and then we built it in actually in 72 hours. We built the system. Right, it was more of an inbound requirement, and we also wanted to contribute something during this time, so we did it on a pro bono basis for the government of Karnataka.
Thank you, sir. I think each one of us were very curious to know about it, so we just posted the question. Yes, sir. So, can we go ahead with the next question, sir?
Please, please.
Okay. So, you stay in a gated community. So, how have this community, not just yours overall, from your perspective, how has the community reacted to the policies put in by the association and the government process?
See, I think uh, uh, the way to deal with COVID, nobody could figure out, right? If you see in multiple countries, multiple ways people try to deal, right? I'll just tell you, Sweden, they had lockdown. They did not have lockdown, right? Their number of cases also same to any other country, and their economy is also down to the similar way, right? In India, we did a lockdown. Still, the number of cases are same as it is in Sweden, and the economy, whatever how the way economy is impacted, it is the way Sweden is impacted. So there is no right and wrong answer here, right? So I think everybody is trying to use their thinking hat on, and saying that what is that we can do to make sure that we don't basically try to stop the spread of this virus, right? And everybody is thinking is individual capacity. Even the government is not mandating certain things, right? Government is also only issuing advisories, right? It is advised to do this, it is advised to do that, because there is nobody who's got able to got the right answer for this, right? We are all trying our best to battle this situation, right? So I think everybody, right, in gated communities are also using the right thinking hat on to make sure that this particular thing can be stopped. So I think there are a lot of I would say not rules and regulations, but a lot of advisories that are coming from every community, that it is advised not to use common areas, it is advised to sanitize all the high touch points, it is advised not to get your domestic helps, because see, all the domestic helps, when they come, it is we are putting them under risk, and they are also putting us under risk, right? Any individual during pre-COVID times, your first degree connections, right, you used to meet 200 people on a first degree connection itself. Like, for example, if I come and talk to you, right, till the time I reached you, I must have spoken to 20 people. So basically, I may get virus from any of these 20 people when I come to you, right? So if you meet like that 10 people, or even talk to 10 people or greet 10 people, that means you already interacted with 200 people, right? So what it means is we need to limit the number of interactions that we have, and either limit the number of interactions that we have, or have adequate measures to make sure that those interactions are safe and hygiene, right? So I think everybody is trying to take measures in terms of how do you limit the number of interactions, right? You don't know who is carrying the virus, and you cannot stigmatize anybody that I'll not talk to you because there is a chance that you can carry the virus, right? Anybody around you can carry the virus, right? The only thing responsibly what each one of us can do now is restrict our movement, only move for essential things. Like, it is not that okay, there are so many shops available around you, and anything you feel like, I need to buy an eraser now, I'll go and buy an eraser. After 10 minutes, you'll think I need to buy a pencil, I'll go and buy a pencil, right? It is important for all of us to now make sure that we are very planned about our visits outside, right? You can ration yourself in terms of, all these things are again advisory, right? What is right, what is wrong, we don't know. We are only trying to be cautious. And I think gated communities, BBMP, or any city administrator, district administration, state administration is only giving us cautious advices to follow, so that we don't fall prey to this particular thing till the time things are becoming much, much more, clearer in terms of what is the impact of this virus. If somebody gets it, how dangerous it is. Like, if you see, right, why did the government take steps to unlock? The government took steps to unlock because people are feeling suffocated. People are all, getting very agitated that I'm sitting at home and I'm not able to do anything. So, okay, let's do a partial unlock. Also, people are realizing that, probably realizing that the virus, is not that dangerous to some people. Yes, old people, people with having some kind of preconditions like diabetes, heart heart patients, and all those things have got a little bit of increased threat. But mostly in terms of young people, right, are asymptomatic, right? Probably people are thinking that it's no point locking people inside. Let's build the herd immunity, right? So if more people are coming out, some people get infected, so there'll be herd immunity as well. So it may help this thing, right? Again, there is no right or wrong answer, but people are all trying to take exercise their own brains and trying to get something out of it, right? I think that's what gated communities are doing, policymakers are doing, right? They're only giving advisory notices to all of us.
Yes,
Nobody
sir.
knows what is going to happen. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. I think it was truly said, and I would really like to repeat the words what you told. Like, truly agree. I'm sure all the participants will also truly agree that we have to stop the spread, limit the interactions, and of course, like you said, sir, restrict our movement and just go for the needy things, which is like very, very important in this current pandemic situation. Thank you, sir. I think we have for about 10 minutes. Can I pose one or two questions more, sir, with your permission?
Yeah, you can post questions, or if anybody else from the audience has got a question, also I'll be able.
I think I am taking from everybody and presenting it, sir.
Yeah,
So the few questions I'm getting it in the chat box through which I'm presenting it to you, sir, so that
sure.
can avoid the confusions of too many people interacting.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, sir. So the next question goes this way, sir. As you see, like many other sectors, educational sector has taken a severe beating during this tough times of COVID. It might not necessarily be impacting monetary right now, but down the years, do you see the effects will be seen in terms of delay in students for the institutions?
Uh, see, I think, see, I'll tell you certain things. What we see in a product, when you design a product, a user research and a consumer behavior, right? So anything that has got a high frequency of usage, like going to school is high frequency. I go to school every day. I go to college every day, right? Anything that is a high frequency and you're not experiencing that for multiple days, then there is a high chances that you can forget that behavior, right? Like, say for example, it says that people who smoke, if they quit smoking for 40 days, 50 days, the urge for smoking dies, because that's a very high frequency behavior of yours, and you quit that for next 40 days. So you're beating that behavior for 40, 50 times, right? Anytime that you get the urge and you're beating it to not to smoke, so people quit that smoking, right? I think things that are high frequency usages, right? because of this COVID, if you're not able to experience that usage, the behavior may change, right? There are, like, say for example, young kids, right? They learn more by interacting with other people. Like, say, my daughter is in class 5. I know that her learning is much more while she is interacting with her friends than actually sitting in the class and learning mathematics, English, moral science, physics, and all this, right? The learning with friends is much more, right? But when you grow up, right, beyond a certain stage, like, say, an graduation or post graduation, right? So it is more like, you're trying to learn what you want to, what you want to do for your future, in the future, right? So I think those are the sectors that will get severely impacted by, if a sustained basis, people see that colleges are not opening, post graduation colleges are not opening, and online people are able to meet the requirement, then you'll start seeing that more and more people will go towards online, right? So with that thesis, like, some universities, large universities, probably will go bankrupt, right? So yes, there will be a behavioral change, and education sector is going to see some kind of transformation in the subsequent days. If this COVID is going to last beyond this year, right? Behaviors will change, habits will change, the needs will change, and the solutions will change. Over
Thank
to you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I hope each one of us will accept the new change which we can foresee in the future. Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you so much. So, can we proceed with the next one, sir?
Please, ma'am.
Okay. So, the next one sounds a little complicated, sir, but I'm sure we are curious again to know the answer for it. So, it goes this way, sir. Like, knowledge engagement has seen a spike by different startups, including the well known companies, changing the way their tool works, how they help institutions. Like at our own institution, Sentence use their platform to reach students. So, do you see the engagement working to extent where knowledge retention is also taken seriously to help students move to the next level? What are your thoughts on it, sir?
Ma'am, can you repeat the question again?
Yes, sir.
There's
Yes.
so many questions in one question, so I'll have to
Yes,
absorb.
sir. Yeah. It's a lengthier question, so that's why I just mentioned in the beginning. Okay, so it's the,
Sure.
am I audible, sir?
Yes, yes, I'm able to hear you.
Yes, sir. So, knowledge engagement has seen a spike by different startups, including the well known companies, changing the way their tool works,
Mhm.
how they help institution like our own institution, that is Sentence, use their platform to reach students. So, do you see the engagement working to extend where knowledge retention is also taken seriously to help students move to the next level? So, what are your
Yes.
thoughts on it, sir?
So, see, I think, if you see schools in general, right? If I take a sentence versus, a St. Joseph's versus, something else, right? So every school has got its own way of imparting knowledge, right? And a lot of people go to these schools because they wanted the knowledge in that particular manner, right? If you go to some other place, right, they will have their own way of, like, if you go to National Defense Academy, that has got a different kind of education system, right? So what you'll see is there will be platforms which will come up, which will help schools like, either Sentence or St. Joseph's or anything else, to leverage that platform to impart knowledge in a particular way that you used to do it offline, right? There are certain core values that every institution has got. Those core values cannot be, replicated by anybody else, right? Like, say for example, a Byju's, which can also teach students till 12th standard, right? It cannot impart the core values that a school is generally known for, and core values that the school is generally known to impart, right? I think the core values will remain, with the school itself. Yes, but they will design curriculum for a digital platform in a way that the curriculum is able to hold the core values of the core values of the college or the school or the institution, right? I think that is not going to get replaced, right? People will still want that core values, I think there will be digital platforms that will come to enable you or institution like yours to impart knowledge, right? I think it's more like instead of things happening, people coming physically to the school, it may happen online, but the core philosophy, right? All you teachers will now start designing curriculum in a way that the core philosophy can be imparted along with what people need to learn on digital platforms. I hope I could answer the question.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Very much. In fact, we have started actually to plan on the digital platforms. So, which is all in
Yeah.
all a very new concept which we need to accept.
So,
Uh,
so net, you guys are going to be there, right?
yes,
You
sir.
guys are going to build the new content. What used to happen, on printed format will now happen in digital format.
Digital format. So, it will
The
be more like a
thinking,
digital
yeah,
teaching.
yes, but the thinking around the curriculum,
Yes,
that is more important, right? How do I impart this? That is more important.
important.
That will continue to be your forte.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I think we need to revise on all the curriculums and
Yeah, yeah,
syllabus and resources. Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I think can we have two more questions, sir, if you allow?
yeah. Please
I
go
think
on.
we can have it last two questions, sir.
Yeah, sure, sure,
I actually have a long list of questions, but because of the time constraint, I'm just filtering the questions and I'm presenting it to you, sir. If
sure.
anything is repetitive, you please let me know, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next one is, sir, uh, how has Mygate dealt with this COVID-19 and your thoughts on some key policy changes done in Mygate?
Yeah, yes, we have done a lot of changes, right? Uh, Again, drawing some parallels to your last question, right? So our way of doing business was more, face to face, right? We believed in engaging with the client face to face, explain the product and make them buy the product, and thereafter handhold them during the entire usage of the product, right? That's the way we used to operate. But as education is likely to go digital, right? For us to run the business, we were supposed to go digital and adopt this online way of selling the product, right? So some of the things, the core tenets that are key to our business, while I interacting with the customer on a face-to-face basis, we learned a lot of things from the customer, right? We actually what we did is we tried to replicate all these experiences digitally, right? Whatever people used to have face-to-face experience with us, we tried to replicate all those things digitally. Like actually, bounced back very fast during this COVID. Like in the month of February, which was free from COVID, we were doing close to 2,000 deals every month, right? Month of March and April, we took time to recalibrate and get adapted to this COVID world by turning everything, all the offline thing online, right? All the experiences offline to online, right? By doing that, in the month of May, we got back to 60% of our usual business, and in the month of June, we are getting back to 100% of our usual business, even without stepping out of our homes, right? That is the kind of transformation we have gone through, right? I think this is the one more thing which helped us to do this is really having smart people who can think through this on a first principle thinking that how do I move from this offline to online. It is not that if you get a WebEx, you can move from offline to online, right? There are multiple other things that you need to do. Now, how do you give the same experience like in a set of students, 20 students are there, right? How can you give the same experience that you're able to give that one-to-one counseling or one-to-one importance to the student so that he's engaging with you offline. He should do the same kind of engagement should be with you online, right? I think that thought process and translating that thought process into the product and you know executing that was the most important thing. And I think our team was able to do a good job at that, right? And I think you guys are going to face the same thing, in the subsequent days in terms of how to give the same experience what you used to give for the last, academic batch. How do you give the same experience to the current academic batch? I think that's what you all your administration may be working, and I'm sure all of us will come out with flying colors in in due course of time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Like you told, we are actually in a situation where we have to move from offline to online. Thank you for your
Yeah.
best wishes, sir. So the last question for the session is, sir, what message would you like to share with students who aspire to be entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I think entrepreneurship is a fantastic journey, right? It is like the like one of the things that I if I have to redo, if I was a student, right? I soon after my college, right? I would have done, right? I think I would have done internship for one other year. I would have told my parents that assume that instead of a 3 years or a 4 years degree, I'm doing a 4 years or 5 years degree, right? Your fourth year, if you are doing a graduation like arts and commerce and science, and your fifth year if you're doing engineering or anything else, right? These are the years that you need to selflessly work with some kind of entrepreneur, right, who is actually running business on his own. Go and sit him with him for 1 year and understand how businesses are run, the problems that comes up with entrepreneurship. You and that learning is very important. That is a real life thing, right? So what I say is, go out into the market, do internship, right? Work with entrepreneurs, right? And you say you're going with an open this thing, no salary, nothing. I'm only extending my education by 1 more year. And you will not believe the kind of inputs. And this will actually, right, it will be much more than whatever that 4 years, 5 years, what you learn in the college. This 1 year, that experience will be at least 10 times of what you're learning in the college for 4 years. For me, my entrepreneur's journey, right, first year of my gate, I learned 10 times of what I learned in my 15 years of experience, right? And I think that is one thing which we need to, do very seriously, right? This requires like a lot of commitment, and people will go to campus placements and all those things. But I believe, anybody who wanted to do entrepreneurship, 1 year, you know, have an extra internship kind of thing with some kind of entrepreneur, some successful entrepreneur, shadow him, learn the tenets of business, and then come and start doing the business.
Thank you, sir. I'm sure the participants here would have really noted that yes, you all should selflessly work under the entrepreneurs, at least like Sir told, at least for an year. All right. So we have many questions, sir, but since time is always a constraint, we would like to end the session here, sir. So from on behalf of the entire management, sincere thank you, sir. Thank you so much for accepting our invite and really answering all the questions which was posted. In a span of 1 hour, I'm sure we gained a lot, we learned a lot, and I really request all the participants that we follow, adapt all the words which was suggested and advised by sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. And I think it was really nice to be on this, and hope I was helpful. And
Yes, sir. Very much, sir.
thank you, thank you.
Thank you,
So can I
sir.
log off now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay.
Dear participants, the next session we will have it on the Zoom. In next 5 minutes, we will have the next session on the Zoom. With this, we can sign off. Thank you all. See you in 5 minutes at Zoom. Thank you and have a nice day. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Hello.
Yeah,
Good
I'm
afternoon.
sorry, ma'am. We have to make you wait. Okay, so we are now continuing our meeting to the next agenda. That is to hear the session on addressing global mental health crisis, which is the need of the hour, which will be delivered by Professor Olesya Volkova, Psychotherapy Department, Krasnoyarsk State Medical University, Russia, Doctor of Psychology, Associate Professor, Professor of Clinical Psychology and Psychotherapy, Department at the Krasnoyarsk State Medical University, Russia. Ma'am has obtained her degree as Candidate of Psychology, PhD, in the field of Clinical Psychology in the year 2009. The topic of the post-graduation research reveals the problem of the specific features of willpower development among children of preschool age having weak somatic health. The Doctor of Psychology degree was obtained in the year 2019 after defending the doctoral dissertation in the field of clinical psychology on the problem, the specific features of the learned helplessness phenomena among people with different characteristics of somatic health, phenomenology, technology of investigation, and system of psychological assistance. Now, she has more than 100 papers published in reputed Russian and international journals, books, chapters, and 8 monographs. The research interest is in the field of studying ontogenetic development of the learned helplessness phenomenon, which is strictly connected with the state of. We are glad and we welcome you for the session. Over to you, ma'am.
Hello, dear colleagues. Good afternoon. And this is my third session for Indian colleagues, and it is very important for me, and I am proud to be invited to such important sessions during these global problems. And now we see that the pandemic situation doesn't influence on our collaboration. We can stay in contact and we can plan any other types of collaboration. And today I wanted not to speak about the main topic of my study, the phenomena of learned helplessness, but I was asked to prepare a report, a short lecture for you, which will be connected with global problems which were cased and influenced by COVID-19 pandemic situation. And if my colleagues will be helpful, or can I switch on my presentation myself? I prepared a short PowerPoint presentation.
Ma'am, you can start your presentation, ma'am.
Okay, so I will do it. So give me 1 minute, please. So can you see my presentation?
Yes, ma'am, we can see your presentation.
Okay, thank you. So here you can see my titles and the topic of my presentation, which is addressing global mental health crisis, need of the hour. Now we know that all the troubles which are mostly discussed in societies of psychologists and representatives of healthcare system are concentrated on COVID pandemic situation. And here on the next slide, we can find the addressing words of World Health Organization Director Generals, who was opening remarks at the media briefing on COVID-19. And you see that the date is very fresh. So this media briefing was held at previous week. So, and the main motto of World Health Organization director, so who is Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus. So his motto is "Together for a Healthier World." So we now can discuss the opportunities for us, for those who are responsible for mental health of population, how to correct the situation with the pandemic COVID-19. So what did the World Health Organization director said last week? So the citation, the indirect effects of COVID-19 may be greater than the number of deaths due to the virus itself. So we can see that the situation of crisis was defined by World Health Organization as very difficult, and we know now that the consequences of this pandemic situation will be much harder than we can see now on the surface of this situation. And another citation: new products, information and technologies are changing now health services are delivered. So this is the urgent necessity of developing new approaches in the system of psychological health, and now we should collaborate our initiatives in making new tools, in making new technologies, in developing and inventing new types of psychological health. But let's go to the definition of crisis. So now we know that World Health Organization defined COVID-19 as crisis for mental health of population. But when we are speaking about crisis, we should know the definition, we should understand the clear meaning of this word. What is crisis? And I aimed to Cambridge Dictionary. So you know this is one of the most popular lexical books where we can find the interpretation of different phenomena of the world. So the dominating definitions of the term crisis are as follows. So it is a time of great disagreement, confusion, or suffering. So I think that all these terms are suited to COVID-19 pandemic situation, an extremely difficult or dangerous point in the situation. A situation that is extremely difficult or dangerous when there are many problems. So the same very descriptive structure of the situation in the whole world. A moment during a serious illness when there is the possibility of suddenly getting either better or worse. And this is a tiny good news in all these difficult situation, in all these crisis situation, because we can relate to the COVID-19 pandemic in three different positions, by three different points. So from the position of time, you see that in all these definitions, different terms measuring time are existing. So time, point, situation, and moment. So, and I think that the phenomenon of time in this pandemic is very important feature, because we know nothing about the length, the temporality of this COVID-19 pandemic, and this leads to anxiety. Now we know that the terms of opening different states' borders, so the quarantine regime, so all these phenomena concerning time limits are changing, so they are moving further and further. So, and we can measure COVID-19 pandemic from the position of loss. First of all, we are speaking about confusion and anxiety, depression, and surely suffering. The amount of human deaths is increasing, so it stays awful, and nobody knows. Will we have another circle of COVID-19? Because we know that this infection doesn't lead to stable immunity to this disease. But otherwise, we can measure this situation from the position of possibilities. Any crisis situation leads to development of new possibilities, and I think that your professional and life experience can give a lot of examples from this point of view. So we should think of time, we should measure loss, and we should study the amount and the quality of loss among in different spheres of human life. But we can measure the opportunities, the new opening possibilities for those who are responsible for mental health of population. So we can discuss the situation, which we can say and explain and define as need of an hour from the position of multidisciplinary research priorities for this pandemic situation. After COVID-19 pandemic, there won't be any opportunities to stay separated in different professional spheres. We should be concentrated on multidisciplinary studies and multidisciplinary help, because different people of different ages, of different social layers need help of different professionals. For example, a doctor, so who is responsible for somatic health, should be tightly connected with a psychologist, I think, and not only due to the needs of a patient, but as well due to the needs of a doctor. I will speak about it a little later. So the coronavirus disease, the COVID-19 pandemic, is having a profound effect on all aspects of society, including mental health and physical health. For example, United Kingdom scientists explored the psychological, social, and neuroscientific effects of COVID-19 and set out the immediate priorities and longer-term strategies for mental health science research. So I think I have a lot of aspirants, postgraduate students who are now interested in studying the consequences of COVID pandemic, because all the world is changing, is cardinally changing. So the form of receiving information, the types of communication, anything is going to be changed, and nothing will be the same after the pandemic is over. The need to maintain high-quality research standards is imperative. So we should be very strict in making our psychological help real, and the standards of psychological help concerning multidisciplinary studies will increase, and it is obvious. International collaboration and global perspective should be beneficial. So you know that COVID-19 pandemic spread all over the world, and COVID-19 doesn't choose a person of any nationality or a citizen of any specific country. All people around the world feel anxiety and depression, feel fear not to be ill not to suffer from COVID-19. An immediate priority, immediate priority is collecting high quality data on the mental health effects of the COVID-19 pandemic across the whole population and vulnerable groups, and on brain function, cognition, and mental health of patients with COVID-19. So you know that now medical scientists discover a lot of other features and signs of COVID-19, and we have more and more information of its symptoms. So, you know that this virus is in constant mutation, so it changes, and this is dangerous, and this stops the possibility of all global scientific world to receive the clear explanation of what is going on, what is COVID-19. There is an urgent need for research to address how mental health consequences for vulnerable groups can be mitigated under pandemic conditions, and on the impact of repeated media consumption and health messaging around COVID-19. So this concerns not only mental health, which is directly connected with the disease, but the consequences of the world financial and economical crisis, which is connected with the COVID-19. You know that there are a lot of businesses which have failed. You know that a lot of people are unemployed now in the world. People lose their job, people lose their health. And this leads to directing to the drawing the narrow specific ways of organizing the psychological help, mental help to people all around the world. Risking to the challenge will require integration across disciplines and sectors, and should be done together with people with lived experience. So now it is not enough only theoretical and fundamental information of what is COVID-19. We should study the life experience, the lived experience of those who suffered from COVID-19, whose relatives and friends suffered from COVID-19. So, and this is another important task. So now there is a new term which appeared during these 3-4 months, which is called, which is so-called parallel pandemic. I think that you will meet this term in. So I would let in some colleagues who are waiting in the waiting room. So I let them in. I do not know if it is good or not, but I will do that. So parallel pandemic is a specific state which is developing in concerning mental health of doctors. So 5 high priority actions to protect clinicians. People who live in isolation, people who are blocked in their hospitals, I mean doctors, I mean healthcare workers. So they feel from stress, they feel the same fear and anxiety, but they should fight against coronavirus infection, helping other people. So, and we should think of clinicians' well-being during and after the COVID-19 crisis. So I will present a special scheme which I suggested to the leaders of my Krasnoyarsk State Medical University, and we wrote a full text article about this system of help to the population and to clinicians who are connected with organizing this medical help to those who are suffering from COVID-19. So, and there are two levels which should be taken into account in development of these actions for protection the population and doctors involved in this pandemic situation. So, organizational level. So, we should integrate the work of chief wellness officers or clinician well-being programs into COVID-19 command centers. So you see the names of the scientists who they are from the United States, and they suggest these 5 measures to fight against COVID consequences. So they suggest to organize common centers or other organizational decision-making bodies for the duration of the crisis. Ensure the psychological safety of clinicians through anonymous reporting mechanisms that allow them to advocate for themselves and their patients without fear or reprisal. To sustain and supplement existing well-being programs. So not to drop, not to leave these well-being programs without any support, but develop and correct them in necessary way. The other position, the other level is higher, and it concerns the national level of any state to allocate federal funding to care for clinicians who experience physical and mental health effects of COVID-19 service, to allocate federal funding to set up a national epidemiologic tracking program to measure clinical well-being and report on the outcome of interventions. So this is very close to what we are doing in our psychological assistance day by day. So we diagnose the situation, what is going on with our patient. We try to make unique technologies for psychological support, for psychological assistance and help. Some patients need our consultations, some needs a therapy, some needs correction or rehabilitation. So, and after implementing all these measures, we can measure the effect. So what are the positive and negative results of implementing this system of psychological help? So the same is suggested by Victor Zhao, Daryl Kirch, and Thomas Naska in protecting clinicians' well-being during COVID-19. So this is another scheme. So another scientists who suggest, so I try to analyze the last sources of information and tried to make a kind of compliance. So to generate together all these common ideas and to present to you. So this is one of the schemes which is devoted to innovation and transformation of the response to COVID-19, and you see that there are 7 areas where clinicians need to lead. So these are the ways of another type of medical and psychological support for those suffering from COVID-19 pandemic situations. So it is suggested to organize COVID-19 clinical steering committee, and I'm sure that each state is interested in developing such institution, in developing such organization, because if this crisis situation won't be taken seriously and won't lead to development of medical and psychological assistance in all countries on the globe, we will have another circle of mental difficulties and mental crisis. So clinical standards, for example, should be changed from the position of capacity, analytical work, communication and education as well, the situation of pandemic should input some changes into the educational process and educational programs of psychologists, clinical psychologists, and medical workers, because all the healthcare system wasn't ready for this pandemic situation. So let me in some more colleagues. So it should also influence science and innovation. It is obvious because now all the world science is concentrated on studies investigating COVID-19 and its consequences. Surely, it should be connected with resilience. And obviously, we know that in our situation, in the field of psychology, we are very interested in following ethics, and it is another important thing which is very specific, especially when we're speaking about psychological, mental health, mental assistance to doctors, to clinicians, because they are usually people who try to be very strong, and they defend all the difficulties, even in professional sphere, on very high level, but usually they are stressed and burnt out. And ethic questions will be very important in organizing the psychological assistance to these kind of people. So, and what about my suggestions? So you saw that on the previous slides, there were opinions of United Kingdom, United States scientists, and you see that there are specific suggestions of how to organize the response steps to COVID-19. But what we are going to do in our university, I'd like to share the ideas of strategies and directions for the organization of medical and psychological assistance in the post-pandemic period. So it should be started even now, and we shouldn't wait till post-pandemic period will start. So I think that we should think of strategies and technologies of organizing psychological assistance even now and on the global level. So this means that we should organize our collaboration, and we should plan our collaborative activity at this moment as need of the hour. So I see three main directions, three main spheres where we should develop new strategies of medical and psychological assistance. First of all, so those who need our psychological support are workers of healthcare. I know that in all countries there are special hospitals where people with workers of healthcare system are blocked, and they do not see their families, they cannot go out, walk on the street, so they should fight COVID-19. And this isolation and this deprive is very stressful for them. So we should think of building a program of psychological assistance to health workers, healthcare workers, development of accessible system of communication with specialists of assistant professions. So I mean here social workers and psychologists, and rehabilitation programs. So I was discussing this direction with doctors of our hospitals and of our university, and they told me, yes, we will obviously need the special rehabilitational programs aimed at doctors, nurses, and healthcare workers because they are very stressed. And not any financial support can compensate the psychological suffering of such group of people. So, and now I want to go to the right side of the picture, psychologists and psychotherapists. Here my ideas are in overlap with previous slides, and I think that the experience of fighting against COVID-19 should find its place in educational programs and special training programs, professional training programs, like something we are doing now for those who are professional psychologists and clinical psychologists and psychotherapists. So I suggest to make it on international level maybe. So organization of training courses for psychological staff of hospitals, of educational organizations, of schools, of universities, of any business unity which suffered from consequences of COVID-19 pandemic. Development of psychological counseling channels. So they should be very easily achieved. So everyone should know the special, for example, phone numbers where to call and receive the support, the urgent support in this crisis situation, because you know this awful statistics shows that the amount of alcohol abuse and the amount of suicide increased in this pandemic period. People were not ready to this stressful situation. They do not know what psychological defending mechanisms to use during this situation of crisis. And surely among workers of healthcare and psychotherapists and psychologists, we should prepare special supportive programs, psychological supporting programs to compensate the mental health state of population of different age and social groups. At my previous seminars, I told about learned helplessness phenomena, and I explained how this state is connected with the situation of pandemic. So, and here we should think of construction of educational work system aimed at different social layers of our society. Organization of public information system, it can be so special social channels, social nets, maybe even social videos and so on. Some of them easily reached source of information concerning COVID-19 and dealing with stress, coping with stress in such situation. Introduction of a system of preventive measures aimed at stopping signs of learned helplessness, which I was talking about before at previous seminars. Online projects on the formation of psychological immunity of population. So I should add that if you didn't visit my previous seminars, you can find the videos of it on YouTube channel, and my kind colleagues, so they made records of my seminars, and so I explain there quite promptly how is learned helplessness connected with pandemic period of COVID-19. And now I want to tell about easy, simple ways of immediate tools which you can obtain, helping your patients and your clients during this pandemic period. So we started from the global problem, and I tried to compile the information which concerns the state level, so the very high level of our psychological unity. But now, what can you do now? So you know that there is such systematic approach as psychosocial approach in psychology, so which suggests that a human is a self-developing system which consists of three main parts. So bodily compound, mental compound, social compound, and so I want to add and because now I would like to suggest you to make a very short test which can clarify to you the very small and easy technique how to diagnose which sphere is in most danger now in this COVID-19 pandemic situation. So if you are ready to test yourself, I'd like to just suggest you to prepare a sheet of paper, a pen or a pencil. So this test is very easy. And so I'd like to know, are you ready? Are you ready to test yourself and to try this short, small technique, diagnostical technique, and maybe to use it in your professional sphere? So do you know how to raise up your hand in Zoom, on Zoom platform?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, okay. So if you are ready, you can raise your hand that you are ready to follow the instruction, and I will tell you how to make a specific aimed support to those who ask for help now in this pandemic period, from global to individual level. So I base this technique on biopsychosocial approach because now you should draw a circle, just a circle on the sheet of paper. And so imagine that this circle is a kind of metaphor of your personality, of you as personality, as a system, which includes, so I will go back to the previous slide. So bodily compound, so this is our somatic health. Mental compound, this is our emotional process, our psychological states, our fears and joys, and our happiness and our psychological sufferings. So our psychological life. Social compound, so we are very influenced by the system of social environment, by the level of our communication, by all the social connections we have. So this is our communication level. And the fourth part is our cognitive sphere. So what we know about our life, about ourselves, our thoughts, our ideas. So all the whole system of knowledge. Now the test is very easy. So imagine that this is your personality, this is your life, and try to make a scheme like a pie. So you should divide this circle into 4 spheres and think of how many percent, how much place does any of these 4 spheres take now of your attention in your life. So it doesn't mean that each sphere should be given 25%. So this pie shouldn't be cut into 4 equal parts. No, you should think, for example, if you feel psychological sufferings, so if you are depressed, if you feel anxiety, and if you if you decide that your psychological part, the psychological part of your personality now is very important and takes a lot of your energy, you should think of giving it a very big piece of pie. So, is it clear? So I'd like to know, is the instruction clear to you? Okay, so some colleagues wrote that everything is clear. So how to interpret this short test? First of all, you should analyze, are these parts equal? So if a person gives you a very, very strict and very equal pieces of all spheres, it means that he or she just lies, because we never have equal division of all these 4 spheres. It is very difficult to balance all these parts of our personality. But where to pay the attention? If any sphere of this structure takes more than 50 or less than 10%, it can be very diagnostical, and we should pay our professional attention to this sphere. For example, if a person divides the whole circle into halves and says, so all these 50% are devoted to my body. I feel physical sufferings. For example, I suffer from any pain, from chronic disease, or I think too much about my physical state. During this pandemic period, I'm very frustrated and so on. So this should be the direction of psychological help. So what is going on with your body? How did you test yourself with help of medical workers? Did you have medical tests, blood tests, and so on? So we should discuss it. For example, if a person shows that the social connections take about 9 or 10%, we should be very attentive to these results, because it can be the sign of lack of social support for such person, and we should help a man or a woman to organize the social support, so to find friends and to correct the communication with peers and so on. And this is a very simple, and this is a so-called open test. So there is no statistic, but it is very clear to our patients and to our clients how to express, how to project the inner state on a sheet of paper, how to separate from our anxious feelings, from our fear, and where to concentrate the urgent psychological support. So this was my idea, just to give you a very simple tool and maybe to entertain you a bit. And the last entertaining picture. So we can go to the questions and discussion if we have your question. And like to say thank you for your attention. A bit of Siberian snow to hot India. So and if you are ready to ask me any questions, I am ready to answer. And I'd like to ask you to speak not very fast, because we have different accents and I didn't used to it completely. And so please help me to understand you clearly and to answer your questions promptly. Thank you so much, dear colleagues. I hope that this information will help somehow you in this pandemic situation. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Ma'am, we have one question from the participant. Can I post it?
Yes.
So the question goes this way, ma'am. Glorifying of mental disorders by the teenagers, especially on social media. How to stop this dilemma from happening? Do you want to repeat, ma'am? Do you want me to repeat, ma'am?
Yes, the first part of the question. The first part of the question.
Glorifying of mental disorders by the teenagers, especially on social media. How to stop this dilemma from happening?
And so, so what is the dilemma? So I think that social media sometimes and very often give incorrect and very destructive information, which influences psychological state and mental health of teenagers. And obviously, we should solve this problem on the level of state, on governmental level, because such kind of information should be dosed and checked and corrected. But otherwise, we can go back to the roots of educational process, to the family. We should work with family and the system of family bringing up and education. If a teenager has stable base of psychological support from family, no outside information from social media can be a disaster. So a teenager is searching for different extreme information and different destructive information only when he or she has no strong support from the family. If the situation, the psychological situation in family is toxic. So non-toxic families have never teenagers with mental health problems. So there is a statistic that everything goes from families.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Ma'am, we have one more question, ma'am. Can I share it with you?
Yes, sure.
Yeah. So can you please share with us your experience and how to overcome challenging and difficult situations like the one we are currently facing, that is COVID-19? You want me to repeat, ma'am?
No, now thank you. It is very clear. So you try to be very caring and read everything very slowly. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
And it is very individual type of question, because we should cope with a very specific stress which depends on the personality type. So, for example, when people are predominantly anxious, they will feel anxiety on very high level during pandemic period. So the first, what we should do, we should search the field, the where personality has difficulties. That was so this short open test can help you in this situation. So what do you feel during this pandemic situation? Do you feel fear? Do you feel aggression? Do you feel uncertainty? Are you afraid of the consequences of this pandemic situation for your health? So there are different fears, and they are in in direct correlation with the age, with social position of a person. And I think that studying the direct, the clear, so messages and technologies in overcoming these problems that now population faced with, it is important to watch the previous videos of the seminars. So I described there the type and content of stress, which is very specific for different people of different ages, for preschool kids or teenagers, school children, so graduate students, people of middle age, the people of third age, and so on. So it is very specific. So now we can say that all the problems, all the mental problems which were hidden in pre-pandemic period now became very urgent. So it's a kind of provocation. So I think that COVID-19 pandemic provoked all the difficulties which people had before. So there is nothing new, but everything just sharpened. So I do not know if I answered the question.
Yes, ma'am. You did answer, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much. Ma'am, one last question. I just now received it. So if you allow, can I ask, ma'am?
Yes, I can answer one more question.
Okay, so this will be the last question for the session, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, so the question is, how to help a girl who is under depression for quite a lot years, for 10 to 15 years?
How old is a girl?
It's a question which I received in the chat box, ma'am. So
Okay, so you do not know,
the
yes,
girl is
the age.
23 years old, ma'am.
Okay, okay. So first of all, we should check if the depression is real, and we should check the length of this depression. So if it lasts for many years, and there are all the, you know that there are 9 signs of depression. So you can search the information in the net or psychological course books. There are 9 usual signs of depression, and if 6 of these signs can be found in personality during 2 or 3 weeks, so this is a case of psychiatrist. So we should use medication. We should give not only psychological support but medical help, because deep depression is dangerous, because sometimes it ends with suicide, and the support, just psychological support, is not the way out. We should organize teamwork with psychiatrists. So, and if psychiatrist tells that everything is not so dangerous, now we should study the need, the frustrated need. So the depression is a result of the following process. So every person on each stage of life has its own need. And if the need is frustrated, but stays urgent, so personality suffers from depression. So we should search and investigate what is the frustrated need. So there is an object in reality who frustrated need in love, in safety, in support. And we should find what was broken, what led to depression. And if to connect with the phenomena with the main topic of my research, learned helplessness, usually depression is a result of the situation when a person tried to overcome any difficulty, tried to receive any result for many times, but failed. So depression is a result of failure. So we should find this failure. We should investigate the need which was frustrated, and we should, together with our client, invent and develop new way of satisfying this important need. This is my answer.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. I think you gave a very clear meaning of depression and the ways to overcome depression. Thank you, ma'am. I'm sure each one of us are benefited with your session.
Yes.
And we are very glad we got a lot of information on various topics like multidisciplinary research priorities, parallel pandemic, organizational level, national level. And you also explained COVID-19 Clinical Steering Committee, wherein you covered 7 areas, that is capacity, analytics, clinical standards, communication and education, ethics, science and innovation, resilience. And you also enlightened on biopsychosocial approach. Indeed, the session was very informative and very useful, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much for the session and accepting our invite, ma'am. Hope to see you again in the upcoming future sessions.
Thank you so much, dear colleagues, for your attention. And this is a very challenging situation for me, because staying here in Russia, in the center of Russia, in Siberia, I can share my expertise with you, with my Indian colleagues. And I hope that my expertise would be fruitful and would be useful for you, because I know that now all of you are staying at the specific point of professional development, and you have your own expertise, which is very important to share with. And I hope that my expertise, my experience will be a very small input in your understanding of the ideas which I try to develop. Thank you so much for inviting me. It was really interesting and important for me. So if you have any question, you can find me on Facebook and write me a message. I can share my books. Most of them are in Russian, but I have some articles in English, and they are easily accessible in the internet, in Scopus and Web of Science database. And so you can, if you are interested, can ask any questions. I will happily answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much